I'm generally moved by the students at Sinai Temple. But this story I felt deserved to be shared on Rosh Hashanah, and I pray that one that you will share for years to come. This past May, during the Israel-Hamas war, one of our Sinai Temple fourth graders faced her own dilemma. At her elementary school, at the blacktop at recess, she found herself in the middle of a group of kids speaking about the conflict. Fourth grade. Various opinions were shared. Kids were curious about what was going on in the Middle East. But one very vocal child who had previously expressed her support of Hamas turned to our Sinai Temple student and asked her directly if she was a Jew. And in the conversation with her mother that night, our student said, "Mom, I told her no. I'm so sorry, Mom, but I had to be like Queen Esther." But a few days later, she decided to continue in Queen Esther's steps and text the student that had confronted her and wrote to the girl, "I'm on Israel's side because I am Jewish and they are my people." On the high holy days, we come to shul wanting to hear a message that brings clarity and purpose to our lives, a direction to follow the rest of the year. And when I heard our student's story, I couldn't help but imagine the blasting of the shofar that we just heard. Someone standing on a mountaintop, trying to get our attention, asking all of us to open up our eyes and wake up to what is happening, even in the seemingly quiet streets of Westwood. Last week, I was asked to serve on a panel with the Anti-Defamation League, explaining the feelings of the Jewish community after the uptick of anti-Semitic events, especially this past May and June. How did our community feel after the attack at the sushi restaurant in Los Angeles, where a mob drove by asking, "Who here is Jewish?" And what I relayed then and what I relate to all of us this morning is to describe the feelings of the Jewish community. We must go back a few years, remembering the shooting at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. After the Tree of Life incident where a madman killed 11 people for the Jewish names they bear, the Jewish community asked themselves, how can we secure our synagogues? How can we hire more guards? How do we bolster our places of refuge and safety so no anti-Semite ever walks through these doors again? But now we ask ourselves a different question. With every flare-up in the Middle East, do we need to be scared or concerned about publicizing our Judaism when we walk down the streets, eating at restaurants, going out to the movies, living our normal day-to-day lives? Our fears transcend from praying inside these doors to living in the world outside. Now, please don't mistake my words, because I believe that we live in the most beautiful country where we have the blessing of praying right here, today, together with no retribution. But for any student in Los Angeles to question whether they should admit their Jewishness, that's when we are obligated to determine as a Jewish community, how do we live our lives when someone else is so deeply afraid of us? So afraid they are willing to question our identity on a schoolyard or attack Jews dining outside or smash windows at a local kosher establishment. But that's when I think the answer seems so simple. An answer that lies right in the middle of our student's story. When feeling the pressures of social media, the onslaught of attacks on Israel's right to exist, when wondering what you would do if someone screamed out loud, "Who here is Jewish?" when on the college campus, still faced with subtle anti-Semitic tropes in the college classroom, on this Rosh Hashanah, I pray that we hear our students' words, be like Esther. Be like Esther. Because remember Queen Esther's story. A woman chosen by fate to marry the king and save the Jewish people, and first she hides her Jewish identity because she is deeply afraid. It wasn't very popular to be a Jew in the streets of Shushan. And remember, the translation of the name Esther means hidden. But when Esther finds out about Haman's plot to kill all of the Jews, Esther stands proudly before her people and sees not herself as one person that has no voice, but rather as a beacon of hope, a symbol to every Jew for generations to come. Look at us today. You can act alone. You can hide who you are. Or you can see yourself as a bridge for Jews growing and thriving for generations to come. Mordecai says to Esther, perhaps you imagine that you at any rate are safe. And perhaps you say to yourself that you need not pray for the people of Israel. But know, Esther, that if only a foot of one Jew is injured, do not think that you of all Jews shall escape. And in response to Mordecai, Esther is quoted as saying, if I am to perish, I shall perish. Be like Esther. This year, I pray that we understand how connected we are. When even one Jew is asked about their religion, their identity, placed in a seat of fear, it's as if we are all being questioned together. And it's a stark reminder that perhaps there's no better charge, no better message to relay at the beginning of the new year than to instill pride in your own Jewish identity. There's a book that sits on my coffee table here in my office. The book's title, And Every Single One Was Someone. Author Phil Chernovsky writes, 6 million. This number is permanently etched into the Jewish consciousness. Say the number to anyone and the immediate association will be the Holocaust. But he writes, sometimes we need to focus our thoughts. So the entire book contains only one word, Jew. That word appears as 40 columns on 120 lines on every single one of its 625 sheets. You can go check it out in my office after the service if you'd like. Each page has 4,800 Jews on it. There are 6 million Jews in this book. And the author asks us, focus on one Jew. Think of that one word as one actual Jew, a relative, perhaps a friend, maybe even yourself. A living, breathing person. We are a sea of diverse, unique, individual Jews, one by one. Look around. Look how different we are. But we are connected by our heritage, our values, our tradition, by the command to enrich this world with goodness, to be a light unto the nations. And when we are questioned for our Jewishness and when we feel afraid, I implore you to not be motivated by fear, but rather be motivated by pride. To not let worry inform your identity, but let our identity lessen your worry. Because when we stand firm in our beliefs and secure in our connection to each other, someone else's fear is nothing but a short drizzle in an otherwise cloudless day, the sun blazing bright. Journalist Barry Weiss wrote, the Jewish people were not put on earth to be anti-Semites. We are put on earth to be Jews. We are the people whose God never slumbers or sleeps, and so neither can we. We are the lamplighters. Or as Anne Frank so bravely put it, look how a single candle can both defy and define the darkness. Light that has grown through this kind of celebration, this kind of commitment to synagogue life, repairing the world, standing for Israel, feeling responsible for each other, that's the light in which the trembling of the heart can't begin to take grip. So by the way, that incredible 4th grade student, her middle name just happens to be Esther. But no matter if it wasn't. For the lesson of the story is that we all have within our souls the capability of being an Esther. Mordecai says to Queen Esther, and who knows but that you have been created for such a time as this? And on Rosh Hashanah, I say to all of us, as we hear the sound of the shofar, no matter what the darkness will bring, our light was created for such a time as this. An undivided light that must grow fiercer and stronger and bolder and brighter. For when we choose to live like Esther, that is choosing a light that knows no end. Shana Tova. I'll ask everyone to please rise. Page 123. Kaddish Gadol. Yitkadol, Yitkadol.